a year, which is a manageable amount, is not going to get anyone's hair on fire, but we're going to be able to make that happen. And just through attrition, we'll be able to reduce the number of government jobs year after year, because we're going to do this for 3 consecutive years. Now, when you do this in the context of a lean strategy, which is the same strategy that Harley-Davidson uses, that Ford uses, that Boeing uses, that strips away waste and increases efficiency, we will gain whatever we all want, and that is smaller government, more efficient government, and a more effective government. 10-3 lean.
I want to say at the outset of this question that I have the utmost respect for our men and women who work for the American government. That includes my father, who served in the Navy for 33 years. And by the way, I'm applying for a government job right now. The real issue is policy, direction, leadership. If Patty Murray's idea of job creation is to grow the government job market, she's wrong. That is the opposite of what we need for our economic health in America. We need to cut government jobs in proportion to the fact that the economy's hurting. She doesn't get it. She's going the wrong direction. She has no plan. You need a senator who understands it and has a plan.
I also agree that we would need to cut at least 10 to up to 20% right off the bat, and that could be done pretty easily. Then after that, no more pay raises, maybe even some pay cuts for a lot of them, 10, 15%, until we can get ourselves back as a nation on the right foothold.
Now for Clint Didier, this is a 45-second question. If elected as a U.S. Senator, how would you address that so-called health care bill that was just passed?
Well, that health care bill that was just passed is being challenged by Rob McKenna from our state. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. The other means we have to getting rid of this health care is in 210, we can replace every member of the House of Representatives that voted for it. They appropriate the funds. We can, if we get the right members in the House of Representatives, they can just not appropriate the funds. The last course we have is we the people. If we stand united and say we're not going to participate, are they going to put us all in prison? For crying out loud, this is America. It's our country. If we have the courage and the heart, we can take it back.
Well, I've already taken action. I introduced a bill into the state legislature 3 weeks ago called the Health Care Freedom Act of Washington, insisting that no state agency be allowed to punish or fine or imprison any Washington state citizen that refused to participate, and also empowered and ordered the Attorney General to fight for our rights as citizens of Washington state against this unconstitutional bill. So I've already taken the action. But I will continue the fight when I get to Washington, D.C., because we'll introduce legislation to repeal it, and if we can't repeal it, then we'll defund it and keep the government from funding it. But I'm encouraging Rob McKenna every chance I get. Thank goodness we've got a strong Attorney General in this state, ladies and gentlemen, and good for Rob McKenna. We need to all write him letters and support him and get behind him, because this is an unconstitutional bill, and our Attorney General is doing the right thing by fighting it.
You would just hear more of the same from me. I believe we need to repeal that bill, but the question was, how are we going to address it? I think we need to address it, return to sender, because we don't want it. And we also need to make sure that all of the mandatory portions of it are made voluntary. Our last resort is not funding it in the Congress. There's been many bills passed, but never got implemented because they weren't funded. That is our strongest approach. We need to establish a 51-senator wall to make sure that health care is never funded and the mandates never go through.
The solution definitely is defunding it. That's probably the only way. Repealing it might be a little difficult, but if we can, I'm in favor of it. But defunding definitely will solve the problem. But then the next level is is what legislation will actually address the issue of health care and how we make it more effective. And that is, we need to be able to purchase health care across state lines. We need competition. In Washington State, we have 3 health providers left. We used to have 20. Why? Because we have driven them out of this state with the environment, the insurance environment that's here. And we need competition. We need to have insurance to be able to be purchased just like you buy an airline ticket on Expedia. You should be able to go on there, click on the things you want, and get a quote from 2,000 different providers across the United States.
As stated earlier, the bill is unconstitutional and really should be repealed. Once that's done, we need to show the leadership of where will America go. I think as a medical doctor who has spent his professional career serving our Medicare and Medicaid patients in the Puget Sound area, when that's hard to do because we're underpaid, we're paid below our cost of business, I think I'm going to have a lot of credibility with voters here in Washington and with my colleagues in the Senate. And I'm going to provide that leadership. We need reform that's based on free market principles, that transfers control away from the government and the big insurance companies and gives it back to you, your families, and your doctors. I agree we need to sell across state lines, we need tort reform, and we need to subject the insurance companies to the Sherman antitrust laws and take away their tax benefits so that they play in a fair playing field with us. And I'm not anti-insurance. That's the only way the insurance industry will survive. But we need free market principles. Thank you.
I would also repeal health care, Obamacare. And one of my biggest concerns is it's a 3,000-page bill. Our Constitution is 4 pages. That's ludicrous.
The bill should be repealed, but unfortunately, a majority won't do it because Obama will just veto. So unless you have a supermajority in both the House and the Senate, that won't work. Also, appropriating or not appropriating funding for the bill is not going to help much either for a while, because for a few years, all the American people are doing is paying into this thing, and the benefits don't really start for a few years. So that's not going to be really that effective. Our biggest chance is in 2012, when we have a chance to get Obama out. And following that, then we can address the real issue, which is the cost of health care.
Now to Don Benton for 60 seconds. How in the world are we going to pay down all the entitlement programs? How are we going to pay for all the entitlement programs and still pay down the budget deficit?
Well, first, I think we have to redefine what is a legitimate entitlement program. You can't just keep growing Social Security. I mean, when Social Security was first adopted, you got to remember, we had 3 workers for every 1 recipient. Now it's almost the complete reverse. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to figure out you're going to run out of money in no time. You take a look at Medicaid and all the other entitlement programs that have been created. It's just impossible to continue. So we're going to have to redefine that. We've got to get America back to what made it great, make people understand that our greatness as a nation isn't its government, what its government can do for you, but our greatness as a nation is you and what you can do for your government and for your country. We've got to become self-reliant again, okay? And that starts with some fundamental reforms. We've trained too many generations that we can rely on the government. And we can't rely on the government. The folks that suffered Hurricane Katrina found that out, didn't they? So we need to start training Americans again that they need to be self-reliant. And that's where we have to go. We can't keep paying for all these programs. We just can't. There's not enough money.
It'd be so easy to make that same switch.
The question mentioned, how are we going to reduce the deficit? We have to eliminate the deficit and then begin paying down the debt. We have got to get a hold of the magnitude of the problem. Economists right now are saying even if the economy recovers fully and unemployment goes down to pre-recession levels, if we continue our spending habits, we will still go bankrupt as a nation. Moody's has already warned, while Congress was talking about health care, Moody's was warning that we're about to have a debt downgrade. These things are very urgent, and our generation has to accept there's going to be some sacrifice. You know, my father talked about during World War II that he and his parents would go over to the Tri-Cities and cold potatoes